Welcome to 100 Huntley Street on a week where we are continuing to celebrate fathers, grandfathers across this nation. And did you know, okay, we talked about this yesterday, but in case you didn't tune in, 8.6 million fathers live here in Canada of all types.
Yes,
that's millions of men.
That's amazing, millions of men. There's plenty of us out there, and that is awesome. And here's the interesting part, though, Cheryl, that dads nowadays are starting their journey in life a little bit later than they used to. The average men in Canada, the age is 33.6 years old, 33.6, but that's 3 years older than it used to be 30 years ago.
Yeah, okay, first of all, can I just say it's hard to believe when you say 30 years ago, that was only 1996. So that's kind of like, oh, that's the 90s. Yeah, our demographics are changing as the years go by, you know, and in that time, fathers, the share of dads older than 35 doubled. So double the number of men older than 35 who became dads. And then more than 40 is 8% more.
Wow.
So
wow.
Dads are starting a little bit later.
Yes, you talk about parenting later, at a later age. That definitely means that you got to take a little bit more greens and more vitamins and all of that. Because, fatherhood, I feel like it takes so much energy as well, right? A lot of throwing up in the air and running around with your kids. So that is awesome. But that statistics definitely shows that fathers are spending more time than ever before in directing caregiving and household responsibilities. So it's a busy time for both parents as well as father figures out there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the demographics and the shifts that are happening.
Yes.
And I found a study that said that some dads feel more judged by their partner on parenting than moms do. So dads are feeling a little more judged, okay? And I think that speaks to the pressure on dads. But it might also be a bit of a sign that, moms, we're just gently suggesting that you could be maybe a little more patient and kind with the men in your life. That's all I'm saying.
I plead the fifth. I am not saying a single thing.
Now?
She definitely is watching. I'm not saying a thing. You said it, Cheryl, not I. But I do love the fact that this holiday was actually started by a daughter. And it was a daughter who was raised with 6 kids, and the father raised his kids, 6 of them, on his own after his wife actually died in childbirth. And his name is William Smart, and he was a veteran of the Civil War. And when his daughter Sonora saw this, she said, well, we need to appreciate my dad as well. And so that started a movement to recognize fathers, and because she felt her own dad actually needed this support, and he was a hero to her.
I love that. I love the fact that it was seeing the example of a heroic man that really started Father's Day. And dads are heroic, and I'm so thankful for the influence they have in our lives and kids' lives. And a lot of kids are not going to show it. Let's just say teenagers, especially. But dads affect so much about kids, including how much trouble they get into. So this is actually a study. Dads who are present and are good dads. Kids can go down a poor behavioral path, but if they have a good dad in their life, it actually reduces the likelihood of that. So they may still get in trouble, but hopefully not as much. So we just want to say, dads, granddads, you are amazing. I have a fantastic dad. I'm just saying.
Yes.
I can't say his age.
Talk about
I don't
him.
know if he wants me to not say his age, but I just want to say happy Father's to you, Dad, because he was always present. As a matter of fact, when he worked too hard, we tied him down to a chair as kids.
Look
so
at
he
that.
wouldn't go back to work at night. He'd come home for dinner, and then he was going back, and we tied him to a chair. We said, Dad, we don't want to lose you. We just love spending time with our dad.
That's awesome. And you know what? Sometimes it is your kids that have to remind you the things that are the most important, right? But you're right. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as well. And Cheryl, today you sat down actually with a dad who went through an incredible trauma with when his daughter became deathly ill at just 4 years old. We'll have that interview in just a moment.
Are you praying for a miracle in your life? All next week on 100 Huntley Street, we will explore modern-day miracles. We'll be reminded that God is still moving today, doing the impossible and making a difference in our lives. You don't want to miss it.
When doctors told my guest today that his 4-year-old daughter was going to die, he and his wife rallied a passionate group of praying friends to come right to the hospital. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. Darin Martin, welcome.
Thank you.
I so want to dive into this story about your daughter. It's a tough story, but before we get there, I just want to hear about what you do. So you're part of a group. You're a singer-songwriter with the Martin Brothers Collective. Tell me a little bit about the group you're in.
Yeah, so my brother and I have started a group. We've been playing music together since we were little kids, but more seriously, kind of before the pandemic, I think we started to take it serious, and then the pandemic hit and we couldn't play at all. And so we are a music ministry. We really see it as a ministry. We have a wide range of audiences, and we do a wide range of music, from popular cover music to our original music that we write and produce and release as well. In fact, we released a song today. And we also do worship music, and we have a conference coming up for women's ministry in a couple of weeks. And we're excited to do the whole range of things with our music.
So I so support what you guys do, and I know your faith journey has been an interesting one. Now, you grew up in a faith family, so tell me a little bit about how you connected with faith originally.
Yeah, we always were sort of raised to go to church. Our grandparents were traveling missionaries, kind of. My grandfather was a insurance salesman, but on the weekends he would go into brethren churches around in Barrie and Orillia, in that area, and preach and share the gospel. And so that was instilled in us. Our parents did that. They were in traveling music groups doing ministry in Southern gospel. And we just fell in love with music. We fell in love with harmony and things of that nature. But my call on my life, I think, came through my grandfather, who was just an amazing influence in our life. We actually have a song about that. And Grandpa just, every time he had an opportunity to tell us about Jesus, even when I was kind of a rebellious teenager and was sort of trying to choose my own path, Grandpa always reminded us that Jesus loves us and that he wants to use us to do ministry. And we had no idea then, when we were teenagers, that we would be doing ministry together, Jeremy and I, and Jeremy's son, Jaden. But it's amazing to be able to, the rich heritage we come from, and now not just us, but I have 3 daughters, and they're all doing music ministry in various ways and leading worship. And it's always been a part of us. It's always been a big priority. And I just have always sensed that call that God wanted to use us to do music.
That's amazing. What a heritage you have through your family line. And I know you mentioned your teenage years. So at some point, your parents divorced, and that had a really profound impact on you. What happened when they made that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty young at the time. I was 8 or 9, I think, at the time. So it definitely impacted me. Home life was different because we grew up in a home with step parents, and my own siblings half of them lived far away from us, so we had to take a bus. I remember as a young guy going from Hamilton down to Kingston, taking a Greyhound bus to go and see my mom and my sisters and little brother. And it was challenging, like definitely challenging, but I never used it to push God away. I always had the sense that God was looking out for me. And by the grace of God, we landed in a small Baptist church in downtown Hamilton because our dad is a musician and he was playing piano there. And that youth group became the family that we needed, Jeremy and I. We would go to that youth group, and that was like the sense of comfort and home when home didn't feel that comfortable. It was definitely challenging, but those years were paving the way for my calling into ministry, to become a pastor. Never would have thought I would ever do anything like that. Never be up in front of people, never sing in front of people. That was not in the plans when I was a teenager, for sure.
I love how God grabs our story and takes us in different directions. It's so cool to hear that. And I just want to make sure I mentioned as well, like, your parents have a connection to this ministry. What is that connection? Yeah,
so I was about 4 when our parents went to Circle Square Ranch in Arden, and were the directors there for about 4 years. And so we grew up around. We used to watch the show when it was on, and always have known Huntley Street. And it's kind of been in our family history for my whole life, pretty much.
Amazing. And now let's get to your daughter, Leah, because this is a pretty significant moment in your life. You know, before the interview, we were talking about it's so hard to see kids get sick because they're so vulnerable. Now, she was only 4 and rushed to the hospital. What did you think was happening with her at the time?
Wow, that was it was a challenging day, but she was definitely not feeling well. But my wife took her to the walk-in clinic the night before, and they said, "You're a mom, so if you sense, like, we can't find anything with her, but if you sense something, bring her back." And so the next morning, I went to work. I was working at a church in Oakville, by the time I got to church, to my work, Sarah called me and said they're taking her to the hospital. I was like, what? What's going on? And so rushed back to McMaster, where they had rushed her by ambulance from our clinic to the hospital. And it was chaos. It was doctors and nurses working on this little tiny girl. And I remember they asked us if we wanted a priest to come and meet with us. And our doctor sat us down and said, you have a very sick little girl, and I need to tell you she's going to die. And yeah, it was very difficult as a parent to hear that. I mean, we have our faith and we trusted God, but in that moment, everything just kind of collapsed. And then, people just started calling us. I posted something on Facebook. I don't know what's going on with our daughter, but please pray. And people literally came to the hospital. And every time we come out of they moved her into the ICU shortly after that. And every time we came out of the room, it was a different group of people just sitting there on their knees praying for us and lifting up Leah. And it was an incredible source of comfort. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we miss sometimes when we stop going to church. Because for a lot of people during COVID, they got in the habit, right, of not going.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what difference it makes to have that kind of support in a moment of crisis that you didn't know was coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody knew what was happening. So we didn't know what she was sick with at first. And we were just sort of reacting. So my parents came and watched our other two daughters. I remember Jeremy came really early on in that as well. And the church just rallied around and we just started praying for healing. And by the grace of God, like it was this incredible, we were in there for a week at first. It ended up being in there 2 weeks. And I remember they gave us the room, the Ronald McDonald room or whatever, the nurses station room in the hospital because we qualified with the sickest kid in the hospital at the time. So Sarah and I would sit there in that room and try to sleep, but you couldn't sleep because every time the phone would ring in that room, it's like, you need to come down and see your daughter. And it was the first few days, we were just kind of bracing ourselves for that. And I just remember laying there in the bed one night and I couldn't sleep, but I was just laying there and all of a sudden this incredible peace, like the peace of Christ just came over us. And we had this sense of, God, you've given us this wonderful little girl for 4 years. And if you need to take her home now, then like we release her to you. And it's really hard to have that sense of peace, but I just trusted in that moment that God was in control. And it was shortly after that we started to get some positive updates that she's responding to the medicine and she's starting to show some signs. We don't know if she'll have any brain activity when they take her off the sedation, but we're going to start trying that. And everything just went from like doom and gloom to now some positive things along the way. And we're just like, thank you, God. Like we'll take whatever time we can have with this child.
And it was that moment of surrender where everything started to change. What did that change in you? Like just being willing to release somebody you loved that was so precious to you and trust God's goodness no matter what happened.
I think it changed that whole experience changed everything in me, and just relying on God and being okay with, I mean, obviously we wanted to keep her. That was the prayer. Like, God, if you need to take her, you take her, but we would love to hang on to her. And just, it taught me so much to just know that God loves us way more than we even know, and way more than we, as her parents, love Leah. It was really difficult. But as we started to see the growth and the healing process start to take place, and people kept praying, and it just kept praying. Meals were going to our house. Like the love of the church was surrounding us. I started to look around the hospital hallways and seeing other dads who were not having the same experience, who didn't have a group of people praying for them, and whose kids were getting worse. And I remember like in my heart, just like crying out, God, like, please show me how I can come alongside one of these people and walk with them. I actually wrote a song and an album about that whole experience. And that's kind of how I process it. I'm a songwriter. And so I composed a song, kind of it asked the question, like, who am I? Like in the midst of, I'm the dad, I'm the provider, I'm supposed to be all these things. And in this moment, I've got nothing. It's like my hands are open. Okay, God, like you're in control, and we just need to trust you.
There's something really beautiful about how you trust in God and in his love. That tells me you've encountered something. And I think about somebody watching who thinks like, I've never known God in that way. Like, I don't think I could trust him in that way. Maybe they've been hurt by the church. Maybe they've been let down by someone in their life. What would you say to that person that's watching right now? It's like, I don't know the person or the God that you're talking about.
Yeah, the God that I'm talking about is available to everybody, is so in love with us and cares so much about those things that burden our hearts, that even if you don't know him, like still crying out to him. The Bible talks about casting your cares upon him, like laying your burdens on him, and he will give you rest. And I really have experienced that rest, and I believe that for other people, that they can come to him with the pain that they're struggling through, or the answer that didn't come for them. Or I know somebody that had, their daughter had the same thing, or their sister had the same thing, and their sister passed away. And what do I say to that person? Because they didn't have the same result that I had.
Yeah.
But I believe that God still is in that story, and then God still walks with them. God is still the God of peace and God of comfort, and will be there for them. And they just need to cry out to him and say, God, this sucks. Like, this is really, really hard. Where are you in this? And I think Jesus, who is someone who suffered a lot, can enter into that story with them and give them hope.
I think that raw honesty is the key to everything. We don't have to put on a show, and he knows anyway, right? There's nothing to fake with him. And listen, if that's you right now, maybe, you have a wall up between you and God, and you don't know how to break through that wall, or you've never been told that you could just be honest with him about your pain and your disappointment, and maybe even you're disappointed in yourself and your own decisions. Listen, I just want to encourage you. Well, first of all, just cry out to God. Like, wherever you are, you're driving. Hopefully you're not watching us when you're driving, but wherever you are, just cry out to him right now, and he will come and fill you exactly where he'll meet you, as Darin said, exactly where you are. And if you want someone to pray with you, we'd be so privileged to do that. And the prayer people that will answer our phone are the nicest people, will never judge you, and it's 100% confidential. Will you give us a call right now, 1-866-273-4444. We would love to pray with you and see if you can't have that love enter your story right now. Darin, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, it's been a powerful week, and I'm, again, always grateful that we get to open up the Bible together for the truth of God's Word to change our life, particularly this week, as our theme is, My Power is Made Perfect in Weakness. God specializes in having His power rest on us as we recognize that we are weak and only He is ultimately strong. What have we learned so far from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, from the life of the Apostle Paul? Paul was given a vision of heaven that was so spectacular, it did fuel him in his ministry, no doubt, but it also tempted him to think that he was all that, or spiritually superior. So what did God do within that? God then gave Paul the gift of God-ordained weakness through the form of a thorn in the flesh to produce humility, to produce dependency in Paul, and to allow Paul to see simplicity that only God was ultimately sufficient. I wonder if you and I could admit these things, and I'm just committed to being vulnerable to you as well. There have been periods in my life where I've recognized that if all I received was the blessing of God, let's say seasons of we call success or blessing, I can look back and I can identify if that blessing continued in the way that I wanted it to. I will say this to you again openly, I think it would have ruined me. I think if all I received was the blessing, I saw my heart begin to become too much about myself and too much about the things around me. And it's amazing how when it's all comfort and all blessing in our terms, we start to kind of forget about God. That's the story of the Israelites all throughout the Old Testament. Again, confessing to you today, I look back. So what does God do to protect us from ourselves? Some of the greatest trials I've gone through in ministry and serving Christ, as I look back, I don't want to go through them again. They were so painful and devastating and hard. But I have to admit, part of what was happening in that trial was God was protecting me from me. That's the gift of God-ordained weakness. And what happens in the trial now is God promises not to deliver us from the pain necessarily, but he promises us to give us grace within it. All that to say, 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, right? Paul's pleading for the thorn to be removed. Here's how God responds. But he said to me, Paul, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Hugely important principle. Okay, ready? God does not promise to deliver us from every trial. That's not promised in the Bible. A lot of Christians think if I belong to Jesus, all of a sudden my life is free from hardship. Who says? Not the Bible. God promises us, listen, to carry us within the trial and to grant us freedom and strength again as we pursue him as such. A huge, huge difference between the two. So Paul's teaching us powerful truth right now. It required Paul to see his insufficiency to recognize God's sufficiency. Paul was able to see this, again, the wonder of the truth. Tribulation and trial actually call forth God's power within our lives. If we run from suffering, in a sense, we're running from God's power. If we run to comfort all the time, then we're running away again from God's strength resting upon our lives. I love what it says within this text too. Paul says, I will boast all the more gladly in my weaknesses, so the power of Christ might rest upon me. Okay? That word rest is like a tent covering. Amazing, isn't it? The more we see our weakness, the more we look for God's grace, the more the covering of God rests all over our lives. Loved ones, do not run from weakness. Embrace weakness. Make it personal right now too. God is making promises to us in this text today. God promises us, my grace is sufficient for you, again, because my power is made perfect in weakness. What situation do you need to hand to God today? What trial can you present to God today? What weakness can you bring to the altar? Prayer Center is always open. Call us. Let us love you. Excited as we wrap up this truth tomorrow.
Wow, Pastor Robbie is on fire this week.
Too,
I
yes.
mean, it's so much to unpack there, but he's talking about just the importance of weaknesses. And I think it's such a great message, especially as we're on this week for men out there, for fathers out there, that, you know, it's okay to be vulnerable, to show our weaknesses, because God is there with us. And I love what Pastor Robbie said. He said, even when we encounter these challenges, God isn't necessarily promising to take the pain away, but he's promising to give us the grace within it. And it's beautiful to see that. And it was so amazing to hear from Darin as well on the sit down that you did with him, Cheryl. You know, especially as a father, it was so hard to listen, but the boldness and the courage that he spoke with. And you talk about the being able to be strong even in our weaknesses, and God just being there with him, hearing the impossible in front of you for your child, but to still be able to have that faith in God. It reminded me of the passage in Daniel where the 3 Hebrew boys were facing an impossible circumstance, but they still said, even if we don't get delivered from this fiery furnace, God is still king. And it's a tough place to reach as a man, as a father. So, wow.
Yeah, when you talk about God's grace being sufficient for you, and I know that interview was hitting you as a girl dad too, specifically. Imagining a 4-year-old girl, and I think when Darin was in that Ronald McDonald room, and he and his wife gave their daughter to the Lord. Like, they released her. And, you almost think, no, you got to fight for her.
Yes.
But they actually released her, and they said, I trust you no matter what.
Yes.
That's when things started turning around. And I think that's an example of my grace is sufficient for you, that God could bring peace in the middle of possibly losing their daughter. Absolutely amazing. Well, I know you've been waiting for it, and it is coming now. The Martin Brother Collectives are here in studio with their song, Rest in Your Arms.
Yes.
It seems like every day I choose to walk away, and I don't know where to turn anymore. But your word calls me now to lay my burdens down, and all I want is to rest in your arms. I need you now. Know that you're walking with me. You carry me when I fall. You're everything that I need. Jesus, I need you now. Know that you're walking with me. You carry me when I fall. You're everything that I need. So I'll rest in your arms. I need you now. I'll rest in your arms. Know that you're walking with me. I'll rest in your arms. Carry me when I fall. Rest in your arms. You're everything that I need. Rest in your arms.
Sometimes life feels heavy. The prayers you whisper, the battles no one sees. And in those moments, you may wonder, God, how do I keep going? This month, as our thanks for your ministry support of Crossroads and 100 Huntley Street, we're delighted to offer the book, The Faith to Flourish by Christine Kane.
God's not forgotten you. He sees you. He knows. He cares. And He never, ever, ever, ever forgets us.
Rooted in the imagery of Psalm 52, Christine shows how God can grow deep faith in you, helping you stand firm and flourish in every season.
On the other side of your obedience lies peace and love and joy and life and freedom.
With a gift of $75 or more, or when you become a new monthly partner, request your copy. Call 1-800-265-3100 or visit crossroads.ca/flourish.